Hey everybody, this is Brian Knowlton with HowToEarnMoney.tv. It doesn't matter if you've never made a dime online before. Through my step-by-step video tutorials and interviews with industry experts, I'm going to show you how you can make money online. Hey everyone, hope you're having a great week. I have a very exciting interview lined up today. I have an interview with Corbett Barr. He's an online entrepreneur and very successful blogger over at Think Traffic, CorbettBarr.com, Expert Enough, and Fizzle.co. How are you doing today, Corbett?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
I really appreciate you taking the time with me today. You know, I've been a member of your forum at Fizzle for, I don't know, close to maybe 6 months now, and really enjoy the community. And I thought my listeners and viewers would really appreciate hearing more about it and your story. So let's just dive right into it.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. Well, how long have you been an online entrepreneur, or what actually? Let's just start with the beginning here. What got you started with making money online?
I think, I always had this feeling in the back of my mind as I was developing a career as a Fortune 500 consultant, that it wasn't, that career wasn't really me. It wasn't my destiny or my legacy. And I always felt like I would never be completely satisfied unless I saw if I could build a business and if I could, see what entrepreneurship was all about and whether or not I had what it took to really make it work. So eventually I caved into that little voice in the back of my head. And, first, like a lot of people probably, started kind of dabbling and doing some side projects, which never really panned out, but at least taught me some important lessons, partly about the value of growing an audience and just in creating something that's really useful for people. And then in 2006, I actually left my full-time career and went out on my own. Actually, I partnered up with a former colleague as co-founders, and we built a software prototype for a system that was basically an email prioritization tool. And we shopped that around and raised venture capital. We raised about $3 million in capital and built an office and employees and the whole
Wow.
deal, and really went through it sort of in the traditional way that a lot of people think of, I think, when they think of entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley.
Wow. So when you were dabbling in it, how long ago was that?
That was originally, I'd say, my first attempt to build something for the public was in 2003 or so. I tried to build an alternative sort of search engine online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, did any of us see it? Did you go? Did you launch that?
Yeah, I launched it, and it was, it was a fairly immature sort of attempt, I think. I didn't understand necessarily how difficult it was to build an audience at the time. I thought if you just had something that was somewhat different from the other services that were out there, it might be interesting enough. And then, from that point forward, I remember getting close to launching it and just thinking, oh, I've spent all this time on the product, and now I realize I have no idea how I'm going to attract an audience. And that's basically what happened. I launched it to friends and family, and it never really grew much from there.
Wow. What was the name of that?
That was called Searcha, and it was a search engine based on the idea that as you search, actually Bing sort of implemented this. Of course, they have the resources of Microsoft behind them, but the idea was to give people rewards for using the search engine over time, because there is an arbitrage opportunity there. You can earn money from selling ads via the search engine, and then you could just reward people via points or something if they searched with your engine versus some other one.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think a lot of people are trying a lot of different things like that back, yeah, I guess about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's not as much these days. So that got you started with dabbling.
Yep.
Excuse me. And what what was your big success?
Well, I mean, my big success is what I'm doing now, which is what I've been at for about 4.5 years, which is this business that I built based around blogging. Everything up to that point was, I was trying and struggling and learning my way as an entrepreneur. I didn't have any formal education. I mean, I did go to undergraduate for business, but they don't really teach you a whole lot about how to start a business. Um, so, I kind of fumbled my way through and learned a lot of important lessons along the way. And the biggest thing I learned was really that you need to have an intimate connection with your audience, and you need to understand what they need and how you can help them. And I think a lot of people start businesses by trying to create a product that either scratches their own itch, which can be useful, but a lot of times it's pretty easy to go astray and to focus for months and months building something before you find out if your audience is really interested or if you even have an audience for it. And that's really the biggest risk as an entrepreneur, I think, building something that no one is going to be interested in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that happens all the time, and ideas that pop into my head all the time. I'm always thinking, okay, well, oh yeah, this would be great. I'll sell 1 million of these. And then, you really need to see if you're going to be able to deliver that something valuable that people
Exactly.
really want.
Yep.
And that whole connection thing, I've really only started to embrace that over the past 2, 3 years. I've always just been a salesman.
Hmm.
But the people that I see really succeeding are people that are just being human and opening it up, and, being just really providing tremendous value, but also just being a human at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what got you started with, is one of your first major blogs, was that Think Traffic or was it Corbett Bar?
Well, yeah. So Think Traffic is about 3.5 years old, but actually, a year before that, my wife and I took a sabbatical road trip for about six. Actually, it ended up being about 8 months throughout Mexico, and we did that because the previous startup that I had been working on really kind of came to an abrupt halt in late 2008 when the financial world collapsed. We were kind of caught in a compromising position with not enough revenue to keep the business going, but not a really strong position to raise additional money, especially given the way that everybody was pulling back at that time.
Yeah.
So instead of jumping into the next thing, I really decided that I had always done that before. I had always jumped from one career opportunity to the next without a whole lot of time in between to really contemplate and plan what I wanted to do next. So this time we took a sabbatical and drove my wife and I and our dog down to Mexico and just kind of hopped around from place to place, getting to know the country. And while we were down there, something really interesting happened. We started meeting people who weren't rich or retired, but somehow had figured out ways to make their careers work around their lives so that they could live in a foreign country for months every year. And this really took me by surprise because I kind of envisioned, life as being either you climb the corporate ladder and try to do a good job so that you could maybe retire early and just enjoy your few weeks of vacation a year until then, or you were an entrepreneur who really tried to swing for the fences and strike it rich and then do what you wanted with the rest of your life, basically. But these people kind of had an alternative view, which was that they were going to live their lives now and really force their careers to fit that model instead of waiting for some magic, someday to happen, which never really came. And so because of that, I started a blog basically partly to chronicle our trip, partly to tell the stories of these people that we were meeting, and also to ask myself questions out loud and to start a conversation around these ideas, which was basically what is the nature of career and life and what really matters, and how is it, how can you better integrate the two of those things? So that blog was called Free Pursuits when I first started it, and it's sort of morphed into my own site, my own personal blog eventually. But it became a hit right away. I mean, in the first year, I had 500,000 people stop by that site
Wow.
talking about issues around lifestyle design and location independence and things like this. And out of that, I started thinking about how am I going to create a business out of this? Because obviously people are interested in it. It seems like a great opportunity. And this was the first time that I had considered building a business that was audience first instead of product first, which was a new
Yeah.
thing for me. And out of that, I started noticing that there were a whole lot of people who wanted to start sites or who had started sites on all kinds of different topics. And so few of them were able to actually get traffic and to grow an audience and to gain traction. And it seemed like something people really wanted and needed and would be willing to pay attention to and to purchase products that might help them do that. So I created Think Traffic as a separate site, basically to ask that question: why do some sites become massively popular while the vast majority go basically unnoticed?
Yeah, yeah, that's how it goes a lot of the time. You know, you'll spend a lot of your time building something and then you'll struggle with traffic.
Yep.
And I've been reading your articles for a long time now and really appreciate them. They're full of really valuable information. And, I do urge anyone to go over to thinktraffic.com, check that out, sign up to the newsletter. You even have some like quick start guides or what type
Yeah,
of down?
yeah. Well, we have over 500 free articles there that people can check out that we've written over the past 4 years. But in addition to that, we have what we call a toolkit, which kind of helps get you started understanding what it takes to build an audience online with some free downloads and videos and things like that.
Wow, that's awesome. Before we get any further on that, I want to hear a little bit more about your trip in Mexico. How far down did you go into Mexico?
So, as I said, we took off here from California in our car and drove all the way down to, I guess the furthest south we got was Michoacan, which is a state that is 2 states south of where Puerto Vallarta is, if you're familiar with that on the west
Yeah.
coast. And then we worked our way inland and spent time up in the high country around Guanajuato and San Miguel de Allende, and just kind of looped our way around and then worked our way back over to the coast and back up. And I think we ended up stopping in around 11 or so different places, stayed in 11 or so different places on our way.
Wow, that is so exciting. I mean, that probably freed up your mind to just really focus on what you wanted to do in the future.
It was really, really eye-opening and just really made me contemplate what was important in life. And I think it's really easy to get wrapped up when you live in the same place or just when you're surrounded by, typical career-minded Americans. It's really sort of easy to get wrapped up in thinking that other people's goals of money and status and whatever else they're striving for, it's easy to take those and adopt them as your own without really considering whether or not that's what you really want. And this was just a great way to get away and to meet other people and to experience some different influences and really to reshape the way that I thought about my life and frankly the way that I wanted to live the second half or whatever you want to call it of my life.
Yeah. Wow. What's the craziest thing that happened to you in Mexico?
Uh, Lots of crazy stuff happens. It's in general, we haven't had any problems with crime or anything like that. I think that a lot of that stuff is kind of overblown. But just the cultural stuff down there is just so different. I mean, people are really family oriented. They know how to party, and they really like. It's just loud down there.
Yeah.
Everything is loud, and I think around here, people just get so used to quiet and solitude and whatever, that down there it's just accepted that people are going to be playing loud music until all hours of the night. I mean, if you go to a bullfight or something, it might not even start until midnight, and there's going to be a grandma sitting next to you, who's 70 years old, and it's just normal for them, and kids and everything else out until 4 in the morning, doing different stuff. So it's just an adjustment, and it feels like people really embrace life in a different way down there, and I love that perspective.
Yeah, me too. And I used to go down to Mexico quite a bit,
Oh, cool.
but over the past, I want to say like 5 years, I really haven't made it down there a lot. But I would tend to go to places really close to the border, like either San Felipe or
Sure.
Tijuana or Rosarito and stuff like that, and
Yep.
Ensenada. And I've been concerned about problems with the drug wars
Violence.
or
Yeah.
yeah, violence
Yep.
and crime and stuff.
Yeah.
But you didn't
I,
really see much of that, huh?
No, we didn't see any at all.
Wow.
And we were in a car. We drove on the entire trip. I think we ended up driving 8,000 miles or something. But in Mexico, I mean, we spent days and days in the car. Um, I think if you're going to be going around Tijuana and stuff, it's valid to be concerned because there's a
Right.
lot more stuff going on there. But once you get deeper into the country, we don't really experience a whole lot. We have a lot of friends that live there. We have a lot of friends that drive down there. Of course, people are being more careful now than they were maybe 5 or 6 or 8 years ago. But we just really haven't seen a whole lot of it. It's not to say you shouldn't be careful, but if you live, for example, I live in San Francisco, and we have many friends that live in Oakland, California.
Yeah.
That's a, pretty intense place to live, and there's plenty of violence that goes on there. So I think if you're, if you're used to that sort of thing, if you're used to Oakland or Detroit or Washington, D.C., or if you've been to any of those places, most of Mexico is far safer than that. And I think the more dangerous places are kind of comparable to those rough, violent inner city sort of situations.
All right. Well, it sounds like I need to make a road trip then. That's awesome. That's great. Well, so what are since doing Think Traffic and really blogging and you teaching so many people, that must have just what inspired you to start Fizzle?
Well, we've gone through an evolution, and we've created a number of products in the past, and we've learned every time we create one more about what it takes to keep people motivated, to have the right mindset, to come up with the right ideas, and really just to put in the work that it takes to build a business that actually works out. And, the fact is, there are a lot of small businesses that are started out there, and the majority fail or fizzle out, as we like to say.
Yeah.
They start out with a good idea and a lot of enthusiasm, and then something happens. The reality of competition, the reality of having to show up and put in work every day on something that has no guaranteed outcome. All of that just kind of hits you, and also a lack of support, and oftentimes the environment that you're surrounded in day to day is just so different from the entrepreneurial environment that you're trying to create that it's really hard to reconcile the two and stay motivated when your friends and family just don't understand what you're trying to do. So we created Fizzle really partly to create a great training library for entrepreneurs online trying to create businesses. But in addition to that, we really wanted to create a community where people could connect, where they could share ideas, where they could hold each other accountable, and where they could just make it more of their social norm to know people who are creating other successful businesses, because that can really be contagious. The quote about you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. We want Fizzle to be, one of those people, quote unquote, or a collection of people that you spend a lot of time with, so that it becomes your social norm to create a successful business.
Yeah, that's what I really like about the community is that, you go in there and you run into people having the same exact problems as you are, but the best part is you're able to learn from each other,
Yeah.
and people are always willing to share, positive feedback or even negative feedback. They'll give you an honest opinion of, look, maybe you should have a video for your Kickstarter launch, or maybe you should change this on your website. But your forum is completely open. People really are there to help each other out. And, it's very valuable to me, and it's very affordable, which, in this space, when you're trying to learn how to make money online, you come across so many different programs. And we used to have the rich jerk, like probably 8, 10 years ago, that he was a rich jerk. And, but you had to pay him probably close to 10 grand to really get anything that you would really take you to the next step.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
scamming people.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like, okay, what's the secret here? Well, he's rich because he convinces people to pay him a lot of money,
Yeah.
which is a useful skill. But what is he going to teach you how to do? The exact same thing that he's doing, and how is that going to lead to any sort of meaningful value? It's really just a kind of a shell game, I think. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we really encourage people mostly to do businesses around things that they're passionate about, and that they think will have a positive influence on the world around them. And that rarely means teaching people how to start businesses or things, especially if they don't have experience in that to begin with. I just see a fatal mistake that a lot of people make, which is that, let's say that I want to quit my job and travel around the world and start. So I'm going to start a blog about quitting my job, traveling around the world, and starting a business. Or, I am really interested in marketing, so I'm going to start a blog about marketing, but I don't have any experience there. And it's really hard to build up a following if you don't have any interesting, valuable stuff to share with people. I suppose that you can partly be a facilitator of information and bring guests on and try to pick other people's brains on certain things. But that model kind of wears thin in certain industries, and it's definitely been overplayed, I think, in the online business space, at least recently.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree that if I like to say, if you're really passionate about something or you feel that you're an expert, even if a lot of people don't realize they are an expert in their area and they have valuable information that they could share with people and possibly create a product or do some affiliate marketing, there's a lot of opportunities there, but you shouldn't dive off into some area that you really know nothing about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, that's really awesome. So it's only $35 a month to get into Fizzle right now. Are you planning on changing that?
No, like you said, it's affordable. We think it's affordable. We want to make it affordable and just really encourage all the people, who might have a little bit more sensitive, I don't know if you mind if I say this here, but BS meter.
Yeah.
People who understand that if somebody's charging $2,000 and acting like a rich jerk, it's probably not worth participating in. We basically model ourselves on other programs that are out there in other industries, where it's just an honest, straightforward, affordable monthly membership where you get access to a training library, you get plugged into a community of people who are all doing, working hard to build something similar, and we're right there with you. I mean, we hold weekly events and try to get people to come on and ask us questions directly and provide feedback, and really just try to provide as much value as we can so that people actually make progress in building a successful business themselves.
Yeah, and people get really involved too. I mean, when people are inside of a posting information about their project and trying to be held accountable, people really stay involved with those posts. And I follow along
Yeah.
a number of them, and I need to get involved with having more of my own because I always need a good prodding from time to time. But I really do enjoy the forum at this time. Do you have any plans for new things in the future?
Well, we've just implemented something we call Fizzle Fridays, which means that Friday is an especially focused day for us on the community. We have a podcast called The Fizzle Show, which comes out every Friday. And we're also holding live weekly events where people can come by and just check in with us and ask for critiques and feedback on their own business, basically. It's sort of a casual hangout. We have something called office hours, which is a little bit more formal, where we have something prepared, and Fizzle Fridays is really a counterpoint to that. That's every week on Friday, where we just are available to answer questions and really to help people make breakthroughs that they need to be making.
Yeah, I saw some information about that. Is are the recordings only going to be made available to forum members, or are you going to put that up on iTunes as well?
No, that's going to be that's a private thing for Fizzle members at this point. We're really just trying to focus on delivering to the community, and if we open things up a little too broadly, then it sort of takes our focus off of the community itself. And we just really want to make sure that our number one goal is to help people make progress, because if we deliver the results that we need to be delivering, then everything else should really kind of take care of itself in terms of the business.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that. So, is that your number one project that you're working on right now, or do you?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely our biggest focus at the moment. We have over 700 active members in there who
Oh
are
man.
starting and growing online businesses. And as I said, it's on all kinds of topics. We have professional photographers, we have people that are into fitness, we have a guy who's really successful at teaching bass lessons online. There's all kinds of people in there, and we really encourage that diversity. We don't want to create a place where we're to create online businesses, because we just don't see the value there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I really like the diversity in there because you actually pick up more marketing ideas from different people, like the bass player that teaches the bass, and his videos are really sharp, and he posts them up there, and he asks for feedback, and asked how he could do things better. But I was picking up more techniques thinking, oh yeah, maybe I should, spice up my videos a little bit more and make them a little bit more interesting. So, you could pick up anything from anyone there. So it's really great.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many podcasts do you have right now that are public and available in iTunes?
At this point, we have 14 published as of this recording, and it's a weekly show, so that's growing pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I like the really casual, just you guys are just talking about stuff, sharing your perspective, and doing some joking at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to make it fun because, business can pretty easily be boring, I think, on a day-to-day basis. And we just don't see a whole lot of people having fun with it out there. So we decided to take a different approach. And, we're not an interview show. I think those are fairly common. And we wanted to do something that was really more like, you would expect from a traditionally produced radio show where there are, personalities that you get to know over time and inside jokes. And, we just cover a different topic each week from our own experience and then just try to really add some pizzazz to it.
Yeah, yeah, I really enjoy the podcast. Okay, so I always ask this inside of my podcast, and I am hoping that you're able to shed some light to all the new entrepreneurs that listen to my show. So,
Okay.
a lot of people struggle with coming up with, either coming up with something to start online, or, but even breaking it down more to getting that traffic or building an audience. Is there any tips or techniques that you'd give a beginning entrepreneur, give them some guidance,
Yeah,
advice?
sure. A couple of things. I mean, first of all, it's really important that whatever you put out online has some significant, explainable, meaningful difference from everything else that exists already. Because, if you think about it, when people come to your site, they're going to be asking themselves a question really quickly, sort of in the back of their mind in a split second. They're going to ask, why should I pay any attention to this site? And if your site is in a space that they're already familiar with and there are other sites out there, most likely they're going to say, oh, it doesn't look like there's anything new here or different from the things that I already follow, so I'm going to move on. And then they just bail from whatever they find. So you have to make sure that your site has some clear difference, some reason for being, some point of view that is, impactful versus everything else that exists out there. Make sure that it stands out somehow. The second thing is that, probably the quickest way to build an audience, assuming that you have that unique point of view, that point of difference, is to plug in and get connected to community that exists around your particular topic, and especially with other business owners, other content creators in that space, because those people are building audiences. Some of them may be a little bit further along than you are. And if they believe in what you're trying to do and you connect with them, then your job is really to try to get in front of their audience at some point and bring some of that audience back to your site. Or at least to get mentioned or interviewed or something, because your audience won't just grow simply out of thin air. You
Yeah.
have to realize that they're spending time online somewhere already, and you have to figure out where they are, how to get in front of them, and how to bring them back to your site.
So do you suggest people just searching for community forums, or I mean, I guess if you're already online looking for information about what you're talking about, you're going to come across forums and different
Yeah,
groups.
really. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's a matter of figuring out what your topic is specifically, and then once you start, if you just start with a simple search and stumble upon a couple of blogs or forums or whatever about your particular topic. Once you dig in and start consuming that content and following links and looking at who people's influences are, the network is going to quickly unfold in front of you. And just start following leads and pay attention to who you like and who you connect with, and really keep good notes on who you should be paying attention to, and then start reaching out and trying to connect with those people.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. And, I've been finding a lot of people that, we're doing the same type of marketing. I do a lot of marketing towards real estate appraisers.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of groups inside of both LinkedIn and Facebook Most of them are public, some of them are private. But once you get into those communities and just start sharing information and helping each other out, it does open a lot of doors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's really great advice. Thanks for sharing that with us. And if they'd like to find out more about you or your different blogging properties, where do you think I should direct them to?
Yeah, I mean, the best place is thinktraffic.net, which has links to everything else that we've talked about. As I mentioned, there are hundreds of free articles there, which really help people understand and implement what it takes to grow a thriving audience online.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Corbett, and I hope
Yeah.
you have a great rest of your week, and
Okay.
we'll talk to you soon.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian, for having me on.
All right, thank you.
Well, I hope you really enjoyed that episode. You know, I've been receiving a lot of really good comments and questions off of my website about how to earn money. So what I'd like you to do, if you're interested, is send me an email. You know, any questions, comments, and I will be answering any type of questions and answering the comments in my upcoming shows. So just visit the website here, submit your information, and I'm going to be answering those for you. Another great thing is a lot of people have been going into iTunes and rating my show in there. I'm not sure if you're watching it on iTunes or YouTube or Roku, but in iTunes, you know, you just log in, give me a 5-star rating, or is it 5 star or is it 3? I'm not sure. Find out. Just go there and rate my show and put in a comment there. That really helps me out get more exposure and able to bring more shows to you. Same thing with Roku. Just go to the title screen for the show, rate me in there, and that just brings in more viewers. So I really appreciate that. Really helps me out a lot. And if you're looking for that WordPress hosting, want to get a WordPress website up instantly, go to mybluehosting.com, send me the information if you'd like, and I'll install your WordPress blog for you. So thanks again for spending your time with me, and until next time, just do it.